At 5:12 in the morning, a backhoe bit into my yard. Water arced like a broken rib, and a man in a vest waved a paper with my name on it, an emergency order I supposedly signed while I was sleeping. And on the sidewalk, the HOA president, Karen Whitmore, watched with that practiced smile, like this was all perfectly normal. I hit record, heart-pounding diesel, and wet dirt in my nose, thinking if this is real, I'm in trouble, and if it's fake, she's in bigger trouble. And the part no one expects is how quiet real paper can be when it finally speaks. Let me rewind, so this makes sense, because I didn't wake up the kind of guy who looks for a fight. I'm Cole Harper, night shift paramedic. Bought a modest ranch on Maple Crest Lane in Cedar Falls, Colorado. Tree-lined street mailboxes shaped like birdhouses, a little side yard, where my dad's cedar beds still sit. Nothing fancy, just boards he measured with his thumb and a nail. I kept them after the hospital took him, because tomatoes taste better when you sweat for them. You know what I mean. First week of spring, there's a 6 a.m. knock. I open the door to pearls in a binder, Karen introducing herself like she's the CEO of Lawns. "Good morning, Mr. Harper. You're 2 inches over fence height, pink citation already filled out. You can read the clause after you pay," she says. And as she leaves, she photographs my mailbox like it's a crime scene. Click, click, click down the walkway. Next comes the certified letter about unapproved vegetable structures, my dad's beds, $150 a day until removal. Then an orange tow sticker slapped on my pickup for street obstruction, even though it's in my driveway, and her enforcer Todd rolls by. Slow the kind of slow. That's a message. I called Jenna Brooks at the county clerk's office, friend of a friend, and she says my fence predates the 2019 CCNR revision, so it's grandfathered. And if anyone says emergency abatement, call her first. So I start a folder anyway, Sates. Timestamps. Photos, because bullies are allergic to receipts. It isn't just me. Mrs. Alvarez down the block gets dinged because her nurse parks to help her with meds. Kowalski gets a non-compliant roof color. He's had for 8 years. The HOA meeting tastes like burnt coffee and fluorescent light, and I ask for the specific clause, and Karen keeps the smile as she says aesthetic impact, which sounds like a poem until it costs you $150 a day. I file for a hearing pull. The recorded plat, dig up the old fence permit. From the prior owner, get a notarized affidavit from Lisa Kent in Florida. Meanwhile, I'm working nights printing exhibits at 10 a.m., with my eyes sandy and my temper low, telling myself just hold the line. The rules will hold if the people do. Then, pre-dawn, that crew shows up with clipboards and pink condemnation tags for my raised beds. State environmental remediation. The foreman says, wants my signature. I look at his badge, and the lamination is bubbling like it got ironed on a kitchen table. I call the actual State Department and get business hours. Begin at 8, and the foreman shrugs. We're just following the order. And there it is, my name. A signature. I don't use the wrong date format for our county. The seal missing the little star we added in 2018. My stomach goes cold. In a way I know from bad calls on the ambulance, the moment you realize it's worse than you thought. I call Jenna, she says, don't sign, she's coming. I call City Code. Enforcement, and Inspector Daniel Cho answers and asks for badge numbers, and a photo says, don't let them on. And Todd pulls up like the principal at prom and waves the order. Back up, Cole, or you're getting cited for interference. And then the backhoe drops the bucket and takes a perfect bite out of my irrigation line. Yeah, that happened. I'm filming. Yelling, the foreman says an off prevention, like the words make it legal. Water geysers, the sun climbs. The sheriff's cruiser arrives. Deputy Laura Hines asks for the authorization number, and the foreman says it's on the emergency file, which is not a file that exists. Karen appears crisp, jacket and a tone that scolds even when she's being nice. Cites Section 8. Deputy Hines says Section 8 requires state clearance, which they don't have, and for the first time the crew looks nervous. Jenna rolls up breathless with a banker's box, shows the real seal with the star, and the recording book and page non-retro clause, highlighted. Inspector Cho looks at my beds and says there is no condemnation. The room outside turns into a silence, even though we're standing in a street, Karen says. It's a misunderstanding, and tells them to stop work for now, like she's doing me a favor. That night, I line up papers on the table. The highlighter squeak, the phone glow. My hands smell like dirt and PVC primer, and my neighbor Nate Parker knocks and holds up his key fob camera. You should hear this, he says. Hits play, and it's Karen's voice, clean as church bells. If he won't remove those planters, we'll remediate before sunrise. He can sue later, and if you've ever felt anger turn into focus, you know that feeling when your heartbeat stops being panic and starts being a metronome. The next morning, the clubhouse is packed for an emergency board meeting, folding chairs, stale cookies, 3 reporters who thought they were covering bake sales. Karen tries to skip me, but the room says let him talk. So I roll my little case to the projector and put up Exhibits A through E, the recorded plat with book and page and date and clerk initials. The CC&R page with the non-retro clause circled the counterfeit seal next to the real one with the star. A still of the backhoe's bucket, chewing my yard time code and sunrise in the corner. And then Nate's audio. No fancy speech, just press play, and let the words she chose hang in her own voice. You could feel the temperature shift. Someone's chair scraped. Ms. Alvarez covered her mouth, Kowalski said. Got her like an amen. And Karen tried one last time. That recording could be manipulated, which is what people say when the truth is inconvenient. And that's when Deputy Hines stepped up with a warrant document forgery and criminal mischief cuffs clicked small sound. But it filled the room, and the HOA attorney cleared his throat and removed her as president on the spot. Suspended all abatement actions, eyes fixed on the table like he'd found a new religion in wood grain. I didn't clap, didn't crow. I signed the chain of custody for my video and handed clean copies to Jenna. Walked outside into that diesel and wet dirt morning and set a cedar slat back in place and watched it fall again. Stayed crouched until my knees ached, and the sirens were just memory. And I'll tell you straight, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt awake. Awake to how fast one person with a binder can turn neighbors into problems to be solved, instead of people to be helped. Awake to how a fake badge and a laminated lie can slide through a sleepy cul-de-sac at dawn and take a bite out of whatever you love. Awake to how quiet people stay quiet until they don't. The board sent a statement blaming a vendor promised an internal review, reversed my fines. The message board lit up. Half the comments said, HOAs are tyranny, and the other half said rules are rules. A few called me messy one. Anonymous genius suggested. I forged my own document to frame Karen, which made me laugh so hard it hurt, you know what I mean. I'm not saying all HOAs are bad. Some communities work. I've seen it. But power without humility will always look for the shortest path to abuse. And sometimes that path is a greenbelt at 5 a.m. Sometimes it's a seal missing a star. Sometimes it's a smile that never reaches the eyes. The twist, if you want to call it that. is this was never about taste or fences or raised beds. Not really. It was about whether paperwork controls people or people control paperwork, whether a rule can masquerade as safety while it tramples dignity, whether quiet folks will back down because it's easier to pay than to fight. And the answer, at least that morning, was no. Karen walked out in cuffs past the bulletin board where she'd posted acceptable mailbox sizes and approved mulch colors. Her binder on the floor tabs scattered like little flags surrendering, and I stood in the doorway with the camera still rolling and the law speaking louder than her gavel ever did. No cheering, no victory dance, just a garden to fix and a neighborhood deciding what it wants to be when the binder isn't in charge. Maybe that's where you come in. Because I'm not here to tell you all. HOAs are monsters, or all homeowners are saints. I'm here to ask what you see. When you look at this, is this about community? Or control is a forged order, a mistake, or a mask people wear? When they think no one's watching, have you ever watched someone make up a rule and dare you to challenge it because they bet? You don't know how. Yeah, that happened to me, and I'm still patching the line. Still backing up files, still saying names like they matter. Because they do. Drop a comment. Tell me if you think I pushed too hard or not. Hard enough. Tell me your worst. HOA story, or the moment a neighbor stood up for you, argue with me. If you want, call out the parts you think I got wrong and the parts you wish you'd known sooner. And if you want more stories, where quiet people stop whispering and bullies learn signatures and seals, cut both ways, hit subscribe, and tap the bell. I'll be here telling the truth as clean as I can, one receipt at a time.